Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Munoz, CEO of the experience agency D-Flash. Each week, I bring on a different leader from a unique industry that is kind of doing game-changing work. This week, we're doing episodes around Podcast Row with dynamic women from around the world who are doing some game-changing and really unique things. And I'm super psyched to have Felicia Hinds-Clark, who's the CEO of Sakred Soul, and have a great conversation about finding our divine energy and actually understanding what this whole universe of crystals is all about, and a really cool and great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Felicia.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm not going to do bye, Felicia, because that would be wrong, because that's been your life.
That'll be normal.
You have lived, if you had a dollar for every time someone said that, you'd be a billionaire. As you know, every first question is always the same. I'm always fascinated by the answers people give, and I'm sure yours will be no different. So, Felicia, what was your first job?
Interestingly enough, my first job was, I was that person who would do inventory in grocery stores. You know, you count how many jars of jelly is there. And I actually did that. I didn't even know it was a thing, but it's a job. They pick you up in a van and carry us over to a grocery store, and
Who picks you up in a van? Like, were you a child?
No, the people who employ us, the inventory checker company.
Okay, you worked for a company that legally picked you up, not you were kidnapped.
No.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, very legal.
Okay,
but quite interesting.
Got it. And you were in high school, college?
I was in high school when I did that.
And what kind of grocery store? Like a separate ShopRite or like a kind of local bodega situation?
We went to like the Pathmarks at that time anyway, and the ShopRites, the bigger ones.
And where was this?
This is in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, New York.
So you're like, I'm going to wander over to Pathmark and I'm going to check how many Vienna sausages are actually here.
Yes, we got assigned. You're going to be in aisle 6. You're going to be in aisle 7. And you go check these items in particular and tell us how many is on the shelf. I'm like, this is a thing.
And you got paid for this?
Yes, we did.
And you're like, I hate this.
Minimum? Yes, of course.
I knew you would hate this.
I sure did, but I'm like, hey, this is money. I'm going to do this. And realize you better stay in school.
This is not a good life choice. Just could not be a life choice. I get you.
Right.
Understood. Mm-hmm. So, Felicia, how did you get from, stocking Vienna sausages to creating Sakred Soul? What's that journey been like?
Oh, that was an amazing journey. Actually, I didn't have this anywhere in my career path. I went to school for computer information systems. I went to college for that, Baruch, actually. So I was in computer information systems, like a desktop admin. I went through the whole database admin. I did all that. So that wasn't even in there. And then I jumped all over the place. So it seems like I would like to call that, I was probably soul searching, trying to figure out where I am, what I'm trying to do, who am I in this whole process. So back to your question, because I think I went on a tangent.
No, you're on the right path. It's like, so you were a database admin, and then you're like, but I'm not. This is not what I need to be doing.
Right. You know, things kept happening. Like that was when it was the big computer boom. So I was in there at that time, and then it went up, and it just dropped down. So I was laid off, and that was like my first layoff. And I'm like, I can't with this computer stuff. So to get back into the working world, I came in as an admin, just an executive admin. So I'm like, this is going to get me back into corporate because right now I'm not getting in on the IT side anymore. So I did the executive admin thing for a while, and I just kept following through with that. And after that, I think my final executive admin job was at Goldman Sachs, which was great, well paid, very good position, 6 figures, it was a really good thing. But that whole journey was just like, all right, that in life and being who I was at the time, my mother and all these different things was happening. I just started to say, what's going on? What am I doing? What is this all about? What is this job thing? What is this job like? What is this family thing? And I lost myself in the process. I honestly came to a part where I truly lost who I was going through all these transitions, and I questioned it. I even made choices in that space that was not really in alignment with me. I started to choose to, instead of dealing with my issues at home or my issues at work, I was like, how could I just escape all of this? And I did. I tried to escape it. I tried to change my life, do things, go outside my relationship. and see if I can erase things. We get there. So I'm like, okay. That process was quite an adventurous one because I really didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I'm like, who are you pushing through something that does not really resonate with you, but you're doing it anyway because you don't want to deal with reality. So that was me. That was where I was. And in that situation, a traumatic event happened where the person that I was actually engaging with at the time died. He was in a tragic accident, and his death was like my awakening. I was like, okay, what's going on? What is this life about? Why do people die? I was asking all those deep questions where you just sit down and you wonder, why are we here? What is this whole world thing about? So I was in that space till I started to transition into spirituality because I'm like, this is not something I can talk to a priest about. I just didn't feel like that. It's not something I can talk to a therapist about. So I feel like there's something deeper calling me. And it happened. I was just like, all right, I'm going to seek a medium. And typically in my culture, we don't do that. This is like my belief system was like, you can't seek mediums. You have a problem, you better go to church or something to figure it out.
Of course.
Yeah. And I'm like, well,
this is not it.
No, I actually feel like this is fine. I literally let go of every belief I had, everything I was trained, everything that created the person I thought I was, let it go. And said, I'm doing this other thing here because it's really pulling at my heartstrings and I'm going to do it. So my medium paid some big money for 15 minutes. That's like always my thing.
It was
15 minutes, but it was the most impactful 15 minutes that I've ever had. This woman pretty much shared with me what was going on in that time in my life and why I met the person. It was like, that was to inspire you. It's time for you. Yeah. And what's my purpose? She was like, you're going to work with people, work with women. You're going to change lives. I'm like, how? I'm an executive assistant. Hello. This is not even, she said, you've been doing it already. Think about your life. How many people have you affected just by being who you are? And I really thought about it. And I thought about my coworkers, the females that were there that I would see coming to work unhappy or in a space. And I helps shift that energy. And then they'll come to work all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed hair done. But before it was like, why aren't you doing that? And I was like, it's just work. I'm like, but do it for you because you love you. Like, that was who I was naturally, but didn't bring it into like, oh, this is something I could be doing. Long story short, I went straight into the spiritual world because I started working with other spiritual people, my shaman at the time, the shamans who help you through that journey of when you feel like your soul died, which is what I felt like. And that transition where working with him, I started to realize, oh my, I can read souls. I started taking a course that taught me how to do it. And when I read for people, I was like, oh, I learned something that I never knew before. I sat and practiced on family members, friends, and they were blown away. Like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no clue. And it made a believer of me. And I'm like, this is a thing. It's real. And when I read for my shaman who's been doing this forever, and I was able to share stuff up with him, he was like, I have people for you. Now it became a business. Because he was like, I want you to do this, and charge him because I wasn't charging anyone. I just wanted to get my certification and practice and believe in myself anyway. And I did it. And I worked with several people that he sent me, still work with them now because they haven't left me. I'm still coaching and working with them. And that, I guess that shift was so tremendous. I said, this is where I need to be. Gave my job 2 weeks notice. I picked a day and I said,
this is
out of here. And Sakred Soul was born probably 2 months after I left because I had to figure out how do I make this a job, my career.
You have bills.
Right, because I just walked away from 6 figures to the point my accountant was like, so you walked away from this? I hope you could. I'll be fine.
It's fine.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And at the end of the day, I was fine.
Yeah.
Because when you step into your truth of who you really are, you are operating from a higher space. So it's just like that divine, I guess, energy, that flow of energy that flows through us, when you place it where it belongs and you're into true space, it opens up the door to so much abundance for people. If they understand I call it the triangle that we have, which is our body, our mind, and our soul. If we understand that if you bring all those three things together harmoniously, you're now you're living consciously. We forget our soul. You ask people, so how are you taking care of your soul? And they're like, what's my soul? Like, they don't really recognize that because it's the unseen part of us that we do interact with, the intuition and all those little pings we get that tells us what to do. But we're not conscious. We unconsciously react to it. But when you start to get self-aware, and that's where the consciousness comes in and the whole crystal energy, that whole
Side of the house.
Yeah, that's when you bring in that side of the house, which is a part of you. And we tend to forget it. That's why we make these choices. We get stuck in life because you're completely forgetting an aspect that makes you a spiritual being. And that's a very important aspect that we all hold. And most of us forget it because we're not taught to even recognize that part. Or we're taught in a different way. We were raised with so many other beliefs like, don't mess with that. That's taboo. Like certain things when you, especially from a cultural perspective, but when you go beyond that fear that was placed on it, there's something even more powerful under there. And that's understanding that we're powerful beings that create our own life. There's no one to blame out there.
Of course not.
It's yourself.
So how would you what would you describe as your sort of job now? Like how does Sakred Soul work?
A Sakred Soul, now my job is out as a spiritual life coach. I kind of put a couple of titles on there because of different things I do. The spiritual life coaching is when I actually do my 3-week courses. I have 3-week courses. I have 6-week courses that I'm now putting together on a university I'm creating. But I have those. So I'm coaching in those sessions, doing readings and coaching. So when I read for them and share with them who they are at a soul level, which is really just reminding them, because when they hear it, they're like, oh my gosh, that is me. I did know it, but you're giving me confirmation. I'm like, grab it, run with it, apply it to your life. So I give them 3 weeks because it takes a while to digest that and apply it and to reprogram your mind and be conscious. So that's the spiritual life coaching that happens. Then I do one-on-one situations where people just want that Reiki, if you're familiar with the Reiki healing, and I mix it with some other energy healing. I give them that full clearing and that cleansing and shift their energies to help them move on to the next step. Energy is just an amazing thing. You can shift it and aid people and assist people into going into what they want to do. So that was my healer aspect. We say healer. Then the mindset coaching, because it all falls into the same realm. So I do that. I'm a speaker as well. I do events. People ask me to come and speak on how whatever topics they're talking about. The spiritual aspect is always there. There's no setting aside time for spirituality. It's in your everyday.
It's everything you do.
It's everything you do.
So how does it work when you get someone to do a reading? You're like, oh, wait a minute. So you're gonna tell me about like the guy I'm supposed to find, or is it more that people will come and say, hey, listen, I'm having like a block and I'm not sure what the issue is. Can you help me relieve that block?
The latter. It's people come with the most common is I'm blocked. Something is blocking me from doing X, Y, Z. And of course, my first thing is not something. It's really you, but we're going to get you through this one. So there are those who come with, can you tell me about if this person's right for me? But I don't address that because at the end of the day, when you do this soul work, you will know what's right for you. You'll know why you even attracted that person you're now questioning. And for you to ask a question, usually you already know the answer. But
the question you already know the answer to.
Yeah, but you have to come to that space of self-confidence. And when you do that soul work, you'll have it to say, oh, you know what? This man is not for me. He's more a reflection of who I thought I was, because that's what we attract. People who are a reflection of who we are in that space. And most times it's not even who you are, it's who you cultivate yourself to be because of your experiences in life, because of your belief systems, because of society. I should be doing this, but I really want to be doing this other thing. So those things. So you attract stuff that aren't you. So I deal with the soul work. I don't tell your future, you tell your future.
And when you do the readings, are those with cards, or you just sort of like read people's energy and sort of do a body scan? Like how does it all work?
Yes, it's no cards for the what they call that is Akashic readings. That's a term they use in the spiritual world is Akashic readings. But what I do is I use a pendulum. If some people are familiar with a pendulum, it looks like it's like a string with a heavy object on the end. So when I ask questions, it energetically will give me an answer, yes or no. So I use that sometimes with my work, or I would just get information when I ask questions that I can feel energetically, or it's like so hard to explain. Like you can feel energy and it becomes words. Like I can translate that energetic feeling into a word, or I see a picture and I can from that picture know what I'm supposed to say. So it comes in different ways for me. And so when I share those things, they're like, "Are you my best friend?" I used to get that.
Like how
did I not know?
In my head?
How do you know somebody?
Okay.
And I'm like, it's not me, because typically when we do spiritual work, we're vessels for the information to come through, and anybody can do it because we're all created exactly the same way. It's if you want to do that, it's for you, and that's your choice. Anyone can do it. I'm not a magician. There's nothing magical happening. If you're ready to tap in, anyone can do it. That's why I'm not trying to create no followers. I'm trying to show people how you can be your own leader. After I show you the way, run with it. Fly, as a matter of fact, and don't come back. Yeah. I don't want you doing this all the time. Yes, I taught you the tools, take the groundwork, and go. You have to know how to step into your power. You're powerful.
And how do you, how would you say that what you do differs from a sort of psychic medium?
Oh, psychic mediums, they actually talk to the deceased people, and they get information from the deceased and bring it to families, whoever is of interest. I typically don't do that. I do feel the presence of deceased people when I'm doing the work, but I don't typically tap into them. But mediums, that's their sole focus, is to just bring in information from the other side, from ancestors or past loved ones or whatever the case may be. I more go into your soul, which is the Akashic Records, is just knowing. I'll just take one step back, which sometimes blows people's minds if they don't really understand this, or their belief system keeps them in a certain space. Souls, we don't come here just once. Like, this is not your first time, your first rodeo here on earth. We reincarnate, we come again, and you create records. Like, the files I see is like records. This was you 10 lifetimes ago. These are the choices you made 10 lifetimes. Sometimes it's those choices from 10 lifetimes ago you've been making every time you came back, and you haven't learned from them yet. So here am I giving you a peek at yourself. Take what I just shared with you. And most times when I tell people their past life stories, they're like, "Oh, I'm doing that right now." I'm like, you still do it. You get it?
You have not learned, girl.
You haven't. And here you are with the opportunity to make a new choice. You're enlightened now. You're in a conscious place where you can say, I used to always do this in this situation. I would always do obligation. Just to give an example, I'm always going to space of obligation. You do it all the time. Now you can see yourself in that moment. And are you going to say, I should be doing this? Or you're not going to choose obligation. You're going to choose what you truly want to do. And so they have to be at a level of self-awareness to do this, right? I teach that. And sometimes people can't see themselves. I can't. It's great to have a mirror. So as a coach, which is something I highly recommend people get when they get stuck in life, sometimes you don't need a therapist. You need to go deeper. You have to work on yourself at a soul level, because sometimes you created it at that level. You didn't create it at the physical level. So I always tell people it's good to have the mirror, because sometimes they'll be talking and then I'll stop them dead in their tracks and say, "Did you hear what you just said?" "Yeah, I said blah, blah, blah." "Oh, man, I did obligation again." And you're catching them in the moment. That's something we need. We don't see ourselves. I still make those mistakes, and my husband might check me. Did you realize what you just did there? I'm like, yeah. Oh, man. There I go again. And it's sometimes the simplest things. And you're like, autopilot. We're so programmed to be on that autopilot through life that we don't even recognize ourselves sometimes. And we get in those places where we make poor choices. But it's the self-awareness is key. Then the self-acceptance. Don't beat yourself up. Accept that these things happen. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, and the self-love. You gotta, don't take that love from you. Don't beat yourself up and then there's no love.
It's not your fault.
No, it's not.
Number one, it's not your fault.
When you're conscious and you're aware, you can make better decisions.
And you just need someone to help guide and
Yes.
and so you look to be an awesome guide. So I have a question for you. So about crystals. So when I met you yesterday, you gave me a crystal.
I sure did.
And so I, as a Caribbean person, like I'm into this. Like I think I'm more into it now than when I was younger because I'm like, well, why would I not be?
Nice.
And because like you have to sort of accept, like you look at your. I think the best way to say that you look at your life and you look at what's happened, and you have to say that like it's the choices that you've made and the things you've accepted and let go. Allow other things to come in.
Yes.
Good at this, right?
I like that. I'm going to just take that. Let me write that down.
Well, this is being recorded, so guess what? You can take it. But I think, I've recently started looking into what crystals look like. So I got one of the ones that you gave me. But I think it's actually important for people to understand what a lot of these crystals and energies sort of means, because the one thing that concerns me a lot is that is the hokification of all of this. Like this is all very hokey and woo woo and fakery, and people are hurting and have a hard time sort of distinguishing and helping to understand how to go to someone like you or someone else who actually is legit and has done this. So like, what are some ways to sort of help them understand that? Like, if you get a crystal and it's like blah, it's phony. If you get a crystal and it's like this, it's right.
Oh, could be a tough one because on site, if you're just talking about on site, you receive a crystal and you're wondering, did these people give me a real one or a fake one? It's really hard to determine that because unfortunately, the human nature of people to just take something so great and become selfish about it and take all the good out of something, it's going to happen. But there's always something in you. Trust it. When something in you says, I don't know if this is even real, or you questioning it, trust that and then let it go. But at the end of the day, whether that crystal is fake or real, if you give that meaning, it's going to hold that meaning. That's the power of you and the power of energy. So if you say, every time I see this crystal, it reminds me of how I must love myself and self-love, it's a belief you've already instilled. And it's going to still function in that way because of the power of your belief and the understanding. That's just how things work, with energy. So it's like, don't even worry about that too much, but it might happen. But I have people that I'm like, you don't have to, if I do certain work with some clients, I'm like, bring your favorite rock. It doesn't even have to be a crystal. Something that means something to you. That rock can do the same thing the crystal's doing. You know why? It's because of what you've given it. And it's going to work with you in that sense because it brings you that belief. Belief is all that you need.
Well, it's the belief kill, belief cure. I mean, there's some people who carry rabbit's foot. You believe in that rabbit's foot, and like if you have the rabbit's foot, like that's what you carry with you,
and it works for them.
It works for you. So,
and somebody will say rabbit doesn't work for me. Well, do you even believe that it works? No. Well, then it won't work for you.
Exactly. It's like, you still have your blankie. Does it work for you? Look, whatever works for you, I think is
right.
Is the key. So about the crystal question. So I think are there like 4 or 5 like main colors, or like amethyst and like the loved ones? Could you give me some, because like I know a little bit, but like wisdom would be imparted if you could.
When I started, there was basic crystals that I used, and you named the few basic ones because the energies that come for those are like good for starter people. The amethyst, which was the purple one that you mentioned you had. The rose quartz, which is love, I think is always a beautiful starter because for anything to happen, you have to. Love is the most powerful energy out there. And if you can't start there, it's like, how are you going to get anything else? It opens up your heart so you can be ready to, accept yourself, accept things. So definitely the rose quartz, which is pink, that's that one. Another good starter I had was a black one. It's a black tourmaline. That one gives you that grounding energy. You ever sometimes feel like you're not within your body? You just feel
out of sorts.
Yeah, that calls your energy back into you. That's what the black tourmaline does. That's another good starter one that I started with. Citrine. Citrine is like a yellowish color. Nice, powerful one. It attracts money. It's about abundance. Get your citrine. That was a great one that I love to work with. I have that as well.
Oh yeah. So question, what is the difference between like having a bracelet and that has the different crystals and carrying one in your pocket? Is there a difference?
Not really. Not really.
Should you take them off?
You can. This is what I tell people. There's no right. There's no wrong. I need you to trust yourself. I'm not going to, you took it off. That's going to be a problem.
Like, girl, what you done?
No. And that's the thing about understanding. Don't let someone sit there and scare you into certain things. Do you really believe that? Do you think that's... Know that they work with you. Crystals carry energy. At the end of the day, we all are made up of the same things of this earth. We're made up of the same... This is all scientific here. Everybody can just check this out yourself. The human body is made up of the same elements as the stars in the sky, the same elements as the stuff we find in these crystals. And it's why our energies work with their energies. And actually, these crystals mimic what we want from them. It's, if you know science, this would make 100% more sense, but it's just how energy works. They even studied why crystals work. I actually read that, funny you said that, like 2 days ago. And they said it's because of the, I don't know, exact thing that's in the crystals we hold in our own human composition. So, and that go back to the spiritual aspect that we're all one. Everything that we see from trees to birds, we're all connected. We hold the same elements as a planet, a star in the sky. That says a lot. It says a lot and shows you the power that you hold within you.
I think a lot of it is, people forget that their own power. And I think when people get stuck or when they have a block, and I've seen more men like that I know in my life who have been like more open to this stuff as of late in the last few years. Because it's like, listen, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain to find something that can at least not give you the answers, but can help you find your own answers.
Right. Just at least start it. Crystals are a great starting place. If people start to, honestly, it's like some of the best starting places. They start to believe again. And crystals is that one thing. We're being that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, we tend to be very drawn to the physical. And we can't identify with things that we can't see yet. So let's start with crystals, because you can see them and you can identify with it and you can understand what's going on. If I say, well, let's just start talking about spirits, you're like, I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, because it's like, you can't see.
Yeah, I don't see that, so I don't know what you're talking about. But you start here, you start to change the way we think, and we start to understand, oh, okay, I can relate. That makes sense. And then when you start to get more and more aware and that consciousness opens up, you're more open to accepting or remembering what it really means to be a spiritual being. And you start to say, oh, that didn't make sense to me about a year or 3 ago. But right now,
it's awesome.
It makes sense. It answers like questions I had so many times, So people get to that aha.
So what happens when people come to you and then they're like, you know what, Felicia? You were wrong.
That has actually never happened.
Really?
Never happened.
That's interesting.
Because, the people who actually come to me are already in that space where they know that there's something that they're seeking. Their soul is trying to tell them, okay, we're here. It's time for your next phase, your next step in this evolution, this ascension process you're going through. So they're ready to take whatever steps is necessary. If I was just picking up somebody on the street and say, hey, let's talk about it, and I'm trying to force something on them, they're the ones who would most likely say, that's not true. But they were never ready. So they're still living in that lower vibration. They're not ready to receive anything. So I have never had to experience that.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Because what I train you is to step in every choice you make. You can't blame anyone for anything. This is when you start doing the blame thing, you're giving away your power right there and then.
Because it's not my responsibility.
All of a sudden, it's not your responsibility. Everything is for you. Everything is your responsibility. So if it's not working, what haven't you tried? What's not working? What's wrong? You have to look back at yourself and say, okay, it's usually something you've missed or you're not ready to receive. But as I said, I've never had that. That's and it's because of where I'm at and what I attract.
And do you and for you now, like where do you see yourself going next? So like you teach courses, you bring a university, you speak. So what's next for Felicia?
Oh my. Well, I would love those things to take off in an automated fashion.
Because I don't want to do this individually.
No, individually, not at all. So once that university, the Sacred Soul Iversity is what I call it, starts to take off, I feel like that platform is a great place for other spiritual leaders to bring their stuff. Because I can't teach everything. There's people who are really strong in teaching how to do Reiki. They can be Reiki instructors in my university teaching Reiki. People who are ready to learn the Akashic Record, so to speak. You can be an instructor there. There's people who just want to talk about crystals, teaching crystals 101. That's in the Sacred Soul Diversity, like a one-stop shop for everything that you can possibly. That is like my current and continuous steps that I want to take it there and just have a platform or a place for people to come to now that they're starting to realize, oh, there's someone to help me with the soul part. Like, I know I'm sick, I go to the doctor. I know I want to work on get my body, or I go to an
You're
instructor.
a trainer.
Right. So now that this whole soul thing that everyone's talking about, where do I go? This is a safe space. This is a space where you can trust, because there's always people out there who can tell you stuff and misguide. But I want to make a nice space and open it up to all spiritual leaders that can be on that platform as well and add their thing.
Awesome.
Yes.
So you have to, so on a daily basis, you're receiving tons of energy from people as you walk down the street, as you hang out here at Podcast Row. And how do you sort of take care of yourself? Like, what's your sort of self-care routine? Like, do you veg out on Real Housewives? do you do yoga? Do you have a glass of red wine on a Thursday at 4 p.m.? Like, how do you sort of like find that balance? Because I think it's actually really important for listeners to understand that, like, even you can be so deeply into something that you're passionate about and you love, but you always know that you have to always take time for yourself, because you're not going to be good at what you do,
right,
unless you take care of you.
Yeah, I had to kind of learn that the hard way, because I did go really hard into this work, because I'm like, this is the first time I'm an entrepreneur and I really want to do this, and I didn't know everything. I learned as I went. Like, I would do healing work with people, and I would receive their energy. As I cleared stuff out of them, I took it. So I'm like, what are these things I'm feeling? I'm having pains in my chest? I'm having pains. It was theirs. So I had to learn. Every coach has a coach. I have a coach. Understand that. We're not in this alone. So I would have to go to my coach, and you have to reteach me. Felicia, you have to learn to clear your energy. Go take a bath, sit down, detox, all of those things. So I did many different methods I would choose. I would either go and do a bath and detox and clear my energy. I go to deep meditation and cleanse myself. Or I'll go to my coach and tell him, run a clearing on me, clear me. And then outside of that, yes, there'll be times I turn it all off and I pick my show, whatever that may be.
Which is?
Actually, I think don't even ask me what it came up to. You ever heard of Greenleaf? Anyway.
Yes, I've heard of Greenleaf.
I binge watched that. I'm like, what on earth is happening? And what was great about Greenleaf, it was great material for my work. So I was like,
oh, sure.
It helped me understand how people think in certain areas. So that was great. So that was one of my things I did. And that just puts me back in a great space. Or family time. I have 2 boys, I have my husband. Let's go do stuff. And I will go in the park or whatever. So those are the ways I kind of free myself. But yes, there's energies always around. And I have to always learn how to block it, so to speak, and just be in my space. Do I feel it? Yes. And there's times I just hang out by myself. Like, even here, everybody's like, let's go here. And I'm like, no, I'm going to just do this by myself. It's too much energy. But you just have to know yourself and listen to your body. And that's for everybody.
Well, of course. And it's hard, because like you want to be like, hey.
I turn that. I'm like, I don't know anything about anybody.
Leave me alone.
Even though nothing that we can't naturally pick up, because you yourself can be next to someone and say, ooh, their energy is off, or their energy is great. So I can pick the regular and surface things. I'm so fine with continuing to receive, but I don't go deeper than that.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like I think similarly, like I can give off like a whole bunch of good, warm, fuzzy energy. Like I know I'm that person, and I'm like, really? And so, of course, it attracts everybody to me.
Yes.
Like, because as you probably noticed, and everyone's like, "Come talk to me," and I'm just like, I don't. So I didn't learn how to shut that off.
And you can. You'll be like, okay, in my head, I'm not trying to attract many people to me right now. And you go in your zone. People can pick up on that. She's not in that zone to talk right now, and they will keep their distance. You once you internally feel it, you can. It's amazing how people can feel that same energy and respond to it. Like, okay.
So when you're in a subway, you're like,
yeah. Oh, the subway, I can't. I'm just like, put me in a box. It's an interesting, and I like attract weird.
Shocker.
It's
not nice. It's okay.
But it's like I attract some interesting beings.
Colorful beings.
Very.
Colorful beings.
And then it's like, but it's usually a message I have to share with them. And I remember one guy in particular, you can tell he was a very nice person. He was just like, I just commented because he had on bracelets and he had on his crystals. And I'm like, those are very nice. And I'll be real quick. And he's just like, yes, I'm thinking to do these things really work for me, and I really want to work with people who are suffering with drug addiction. I'm recovering from that, and I want to help other people. And I'm like, that is amazing. I said, you can do it. Your story alone, you went through that because you wanted to help other people. And he was like, I think I opened the whole Pandora, everything for him. He was like, thank you. I needed to hear that because I know I can. I said, you can. Use, and I'll end with what I always say to people, use your life. Don't let your life experiences define you. Let it create you. So I'm like, that happened? That doesn't define you. But what can you do with that? Create something beautiful. Turn your light on. It was off for a little bit. Turn it on and now ignite all those other people who had similar experiences. So that's like what we're doing here. All the people you met with Podcast Row, they're doing what they're doing because of what they went through.
Of course, and I think you're right. That actually is a great way to end the show because I think it's so important that, like, your lived experience allows you to create new opportunities and experiences that can be so much better and greater, and if you just can harness those on,
right?
And remember, you're still here.
Yes,
you're still here.
It didn't end, so you might as well keep doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. It's like live it with abundance and live it with and live it with the resilience that you've had is the key for all of this.
And we're here to help each other. The only way you can do it is if first you got to step into you.
First.
Yes, it's
first.
A torch. It's literally a torch. I see it's like a light we have, and when we do that, we pass the torch. Light up the other person who was dim for a minute. They're now going to light up a whole bunch of other people. It's a ripple effect that's all I want from this Sakred Soul diversity and this I'm pushing an I am movement to get that going. So,
awesome. Well, Felicia, it has been an absolute delight to have you on the show, and we'll put all the information in the show notes about how to get in contact with you because you're here in Brooklyn, and learn about the university as well because I think what you're doing is fantastic. And thank you so very much.
And thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And that's our show.
Thank you.